This is the Indonesia channel.
Coming up on today's Indonesia, the Dutch government has named a street for honoring Indonesia's prominent human rights campaigner. Authorities held the first computer-based test for high school national exams. And a Chinese company has expanded its cement factory in South Kalimantan.
Selamat berjumpa lagi. Welcome to today's Indonesia from Jakarta. I'm Prisma Kinanti, sitting in for Luisa Kusnandar. The Dutch government will name a street after the late Indonesian human rights defender Munir Talib for remembering his fight in protecting and promoting human rights. Munir's wife Suciwati is scheduled to attend the ceremony on Tuesday in The Hague, Netherlands. The street is located in a complex which also has streets named after other international human rights activists, such as former South African President Nelson Mandela. Munir was killed on board a flight from Jakarta to Amsterdam on September 7, 2004 by arsenic poisoning. In November last year, Polikarpus Budihari Priyanto, the convicted murderer of Munir, was released from Sukamiskin prison in Bandung, West Java. The Jakarta court sentenced Polikarpus to 14 years in prison. There have been 3 Indonesian heroes, including former Vice President Muhammad Hatta and women rights activist Raden Ajeng Kartini, whose names are used on streets in the Netherlands. We get perspective from our viewpoint analyst. Wimar Witoelar is here. He is a former presidential spokesman, now running his own communications company. Wimar,
Prisma,
do you see this as a reminder for Indonesian governments?
Well, it's not intended as such. It's just an honor, an international honor awarded by deserving people like you mentioned Nelson Mandela and Raden Ajeng Kartini and I think Mahatma Gandhi. Munir was a humanist who died in defense of human rights. That it reminds us, very good, it should remind us, but I don't think the Dutch government intended for it to be a reminder.
But isn't it ironic that, on the other hand, the Netherlands appreciate Munir as a human rights activist back then in Indonesia? The case is not solved yet. What do you think?
Well, it's ironic, but that's the unfortunate story of our developing country, that as the international world appreciates a lot of Indonesian things, Indonesia itself doesn't know what it has. As they say, you never know how good it is until it's gone. Munir was an excellent person. I had the honor of knowing him personally, and he is just a very precious man, and it's a shame that Indonesians have to learn from the outside world how great he is.
But in terms of handling the case, what about it?
Well, Indonesian governments have successively neglected to find justice in this case, from the president when he was killed was President Megawati to President Yudhoyono, 2 terms. They never came to closure on the case. Now President Jokowi has the same task in front of him. Every Thursday, people demonstrate in front of the palace to demand justice.
Okay, Munir's name is on par with other international human rights activists, as I mentioned before, such as Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. What is the message behind this?
The message is that people who know right from wrong will not stop at anything to fight for that right, even though it means sacrificing their own life. And there is no dimension in the fight for human rights. There's no small fight, big fight. It's all a fight for the truth. And in that sense, Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela and maybe Ninoy Aquino and Munir share the same honor.
Now, how could the honor influence our current government in tackling this issue?
It should.
Would they give more push for the government to solve Munir's case?
The government has to be pushed by the society, by the media, by you and me. So it's good we have this interview on television to remind people, especially 2003 is a long time ago and it's fast receding in our memories. It should not disappear forever. Because it really is something that is still active. Human rights is still something that we cannot take for granted in Indonesia.
In your opinion, though, would it still be going on with people still remembering this case and it will be solved soon in the future, or will it just be disappeared?
I have a personal stake in making sure it does not disappear.
Okay, Wimar, activists say the government has failed to find a breakthrough as Munir's murder continues to create controversy here. What do you think about that?
Well, it's not the government, but the governments, because several presidents have succeeded each other. Nobody could solve the case because it is conducted by people who are always close to power. More specifically, military intelligence people who always have a way to cover up their misdeeds.
Can we say this is a government failure, the government's failure?
No, because the government is a dynamic thing. It's a success that people were able to bring the case to the public eye. It's a failure in a sense they haven't completed the case. But you cannot condemn the government to either failure or success because it's an ongoing thing. It's like a tree, it keeps growing.
But what can we do? What can the government do to open more way to solve this issue, to solve this case?
It can give continued support to freedom of the press, to NGOs who fight for human rights, to the Commission for Human Rights. It should not stop at all and continue to provide support to the civil society.
Okay, back to Jokowi's commitment to solve human rights case now. How do you see this is going?
Well, now people have to stop bothering Jokowi. For 8 months they've been bugging him so he cannot concentrate on his work. People, selfish people in politics, even his own political party, are just not allowing him to concentrate, so he's not able to show his true talents. If you ask me, nothing is Jokowi's fault up till now because he's not being given a chance to work.
But are you still optimistic in him?
Yes. I have to be optimistic because I cannot be optimistic in people who oppose him. I cannot be optimistic with Megawati. I cannot be optimistic with the parliament. I cannot be optimistic with Prabowo. I cannot be optimistic with anyone except the people whom we elected with a majority.
Okay, Wimar, last quick question. But what about his effort following Polikarpus' release last year?
Well, from the start, the arrest of Polikarpus was suspicious because nobody could see that he was the one to blame. Well, he was the Garuda officer who allowed the arsenic to be given along with the orange juice, but one can hardly see him as the mastermind behind all this. He is just a red herring put in to confuse the issue.
Okay, Wimar Witoelar, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prisma.